Welcome to part 3 of our knitting tutorial for knitting 2 at a time socks in the magic loop method using one needle. So the first thing we are going to do, we have sides 1, you can see our star marker here, side 1 and 2. This is going across the instep and you're going to just knit across these stitches. What we're going to be doing in this episode is taking the stitches that we picked up from the heel and the gussets last week, and we're going to be doing decreases on both sides here so that we can return to our original stitch count of 56. Right now we have 74. So we're going to begin by knitting straight across. Make sure you pull this first stitch in snugly. I've now knit completely across both of the insteps. I'm going to turn my work, and this is where the decreases are going to take place. The first decrease will be to knit one stitch, slip one stitch, knit one stitch, and then pass over. And you're going to pass the middle stitch. You have 3 stitches. The slip stitch, which is your middle stitch here, is what is going to be passed over. This first stitch is just kind of an anchor stitch. The actual decrease takes place on the second and third stitch. Then you're going to knit all the way across the heel and the gusset. So you go through the gusset, the heel, and through the other side of the gusset to the last 3 stitches on that sock. I now have knit all the way across the gusset, the heel, and the other gusset, and I have 3 stitches left. So on this one, I am going to knit 2 together. And knit 1. Again, that last stitch is just an anchor stitch. So that completes the gusset on one sock all the way across. I'm now going to do the same thing to the second sock. So I'm going to knit 1, pulling it tight so you don't have a gap between the instep and the gusset, pulling it snugly. Then I'm going to slip a stitch, knit a stitch, and pass the slipped stitch over. Then I'm going to knit all the way across my gusset, my heel, and back across the other side of the gusset to the last 3 stitches. I now have knit across the gusset, the heel, and the other gusset for the second sock, and I'm down to the last 3 stitches. I am going to knit 2 stitches together, and knit 1. Now when I turn my work, I've now completed round 1 of the decreases. Round 2 is going to not involve any decreases at all. Round 2, you will just strictly be knitting all the way around again, around each sock, and all that serves the purpose of is tightening up the stitches where your decreases are, and it gives a little bit of space because you don't want one row after another with decreases. So it just acts as a little structure, as well as giving a little bit more space to the heel. You're going to repeat rounds 1 and round 2 for a total of 9 times. So we've already done it once. We're going to do it 8 more times. And each time you go through a set of rounds 1 and 2, you are decreasing 1 stitch on each side of the gusset here. And because you're taking it from 74 stitches down to 56, which is what we originally cast on, that would be a decrease of 2 stitches for every time you complete round 1 and 2. So again, round 1 is the decrease, round 2 is just strictly knit. So we will get back. I'm going to go ahead and do all these decreases, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. I've now done the gusset decreases. So let's take a look at what I've got. My needles, of course, are faced in the right direction. My yarn is back in the place where it should have been, coming out of the back. Now on each sock, we now have the cuff. Here's the heel. You can see it right here. There's the heel. And this is the instep here. And if you look closely, you can see right along here are the instep decreases. I'll show it on the other side as well. Right here. And then on this sock, we have the same thing. You have the cuff, you have the heel, and you have the instep. And again, there are the decreases right along the top here, and on the side, there they are right along here. So at this point, you should have a total of 56 stitches per sock. It would be 28 on each side, and here you would have 28 on the front and the back. And you are just going to be knitting around how you did on the upper part of the leg, just below the cuff when you began your sock. When you finished the ribbing, you did this portion where you were just knitting straight all the way around. You're going to be doing the same thing. Now the length of your sock is going to be determined by the size of your foot. So you need to measure your foot from the end of your foot by your heel to the tip of your big toe, and then subtract 1.5 inches. And that will tell you how far on the sock to knit. From the sock, you're going to look at the heel. You can see here's my heel right here. You're going to measure from the heel to the working edge. So in other words, if your foot is 8 inches long from the base of your heel to the tip of your toe, you're going to subtract 1.5 inches. That's going to be 6.5 inches that you're going to knit, that your sock should measure from the heel up to your working yarn. Should be 6.5 inches. That extra 1.5 inches will be taken up with the toe, which will be next week's tutorial. We will be finishing our socks next week when we do the toe and do the cast off. So if you found this helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Please watch my videos on Saturdays and tutorials on Wednesdays. Thanks again for watching.